Over here to my left, we have Zach Green again with PTCB, and in the middle, we have Marcy Knorr, and then on the end, we have Roxanne, and they'll tell more about their specialties. So what we have is kind of individuals from different areas of pharmacy to help answer questions. To get them started, though, if you look in your booklet, you can see the objectives and kind of the description of the topic. And so one of the objectives, so it says a common thread for pharmacy technicians seeking advancement is the question of extra credentialing. Is it the right path? Why should I go to the time, effort, and expense of getting advanced certifications when it won't help me professionally advance? So these are what we're going to kind of start with, and some of you may have, had questions for Zach that you didn't ask originally, and this is a good time to ask. So I think we're going to start. You guys tell me who wants to start, and they're just going to kind of talk a little bit. You are welcome to, ask questions as we go. So we have about 45 minutes to spend with these folks, and this is really a forum. It's a discussion, and these three here are to provide that leadership. But it's about all of us. So who wants to start?
Oh, I'll always start. That's part of my problem is I always volunteer and I always want to do the first thing, so why not? I'm Marcy Knorr. I am in North Carolina. I work for Cone Health and specifically at the Moses Cone campus. I have been the technician there for 21 years and a technician somewhere else for more time. That doesn't allow you to add it up to know how old I am. I've had retail experience, and like I said, for the last 21 years, I've been in a hospital. I've worked everything from the beginning technician who just walked in and had no idea why all the brands were in generic name. I also come from Pennsylvania, so we spoke this foreign language. They spoke Southern. And I was like, great, Southern language with everything starting with a CEF. I was going to quit in 3 days. I was like, I wasn't going to make it. But I did that. I moved into other specialties and kind of created some on my own on the way up. And I'm currently the purchasing agent for Moses Cone. So I know many years ago, we learned about the association or the associate degree you could get. I had many technicians ask me, why do you want that? Moses Cone isn't doing anything with it. And my answer to them was, why wouldn't I want it? It is part of my chosen career. Why wouldn't I want to better myself? And then amazingly, after Moses Cone found out myself and Michelle actually did it at the same time, not knowing we were applying to the same program, we created the Tech Check Tech at our campus. So that's just an example of get your accreditations, do the badges, get your associates, become certified, become the expert in your field. Would you like to do that? I'm sorry, my left, right, here you go.
Okay. Well, I'm Zach Green. I work at PTCB, but my official title is the Director of Professional Affairs and Director of PTech. PTech is the Pharmacy Technician Educators Council. Prior to working at PTCB, though, I worked in a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I started in pharmacy at a mail order facility and I thought I wanted to go to pharmacy school, so I thought, let's get a job in a hospital, and I found out that I did not want to be a pharmacist. And I went to school for public policy, and I thought that I was going to be getting out of pharmacy, going that route, but obviously the universe had other plans for me, because here I am. So, I don't know, I don't necessarily have, like hospital pharmacy has changed so much, so I don't necessarily have a specialty there, but I do have, I guess, a different approach from getting to meet so many different technicians like this from all around the country, because I do get to interact with people on a national level, on a state level, from all different employers and educators.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Will. I'm from Illinois, but I'm from, it's a suburb of Chicago in the far north suburbs, but I work for a hospital system as an outpatient pharmacy technician. I also do what's called the med-to-bed program, if anybody's familiar with that type of a program. Okay, what we do is in a nutshell, we go to the room to dispense the medication to the patient before they go home. The advantage to that is that we can do the check on those expensive drugs before they leave the hospital. So we have a direct line to the doctors or the nurses to say, this med is going to be $785 next month. Are you really sure you want to dispense it now? Because a lot of people don't realize, especially when you're in retail, is that the patient gets to you in the retail pharmacy, and now they can't afford the med because it's not covered, it's expensive. They don't talk to the doctor. They just say, and they go home. Then they get readmitted to the hospital 3 weeks later for the same problem. Every time a patient gets readmitted with certain types of things, like a problem with AFib, okay? If they don't go home with their Eliquis and they don't get it from the pharmacy and they readmit 3 weeks later, the hospital system gets fined. When the hospital system gets fined, so do you, because the public pays for that fine when all is said and done. So I look at it, I've been doing pharmacy as a technician for 17 years. And I did pharmacy as a veterinary technician for 15 years. So I kind of figured, it'll be the same thing. I'll just be dealing with humans instead of with animals. In some ways it is. It has made me the expert of every time somebody has a dog question, it's Roxanne, can you talk to them about the dog? Okay. I also do what, in my hospital system, we supply the Proleas, the expensive medicines, to the doctor's offices to give our hospital system a significant savings on the medication. But there's a lot of work that's involved with that. So I've had to learn how to do the prior authorization process. I've had to learn a lot of things that, quite frankly, if I had not had the advanced training, I'm in CPHT ADV. I was actually one of the first 50 that, I jumped on that baby as soon as I can. Now, my thought to you of why you should do these, because admittedly, they can be pricey to have these things done. I'm not sugarcoating it. It's not cheap, okay? The thing is what it gives you is, number one, it gives you confidence, okay? You can't put a price on the confidence you feel when you have more knowledge for yourself, okay? You've all seen the people who are mousy in the corner, who never, they just barely get what they need for their certification every 2 years, okay? They don't want to learn, they don't want to grow. They tend to be the people you really don't want to work with because they're not enthusiastic about their job. It's a job to them. When you constantly work towards doing things that interest you, doing things that you love, and learning new things in your profession, it makes it a profession for you. It makes you more willing to love your job and want to go to work. But honestly, it gives you the confidence to say to your boss, I'm worth it. I am worth this. And you know it as well as I know it. If you don't have confidence, they tell you, no, I'm sorry, no, there's no money for that. No, I'm sorry, there's no money for that. If you've taken some of these courses, and there are some that are pricey, there are some that are cheap, there are some that are free. When you take advantage of the education that's offered to you, it gives you the confidence to say to your boss, I can go anywhere. I don't worry. I'm not afraid to say I'm 64 years old. I'm not worried about the fact that I won't have a job tomorrow, okay? And if it's in the current job I have, or if it's in a whole new field, I have the confidence to know that I can go to any job and feel like I can accomplish that.
Sorry.
Okay?
Thank you, Roxanne.
The advanced degree gives that to you. So if nothing else, go for it for that.
Thank you. So yeah, Marcy, I'm going to go to a third question, then we'll circle back to that. So can you tell how to advance, kind of give some pointers to advance when there doesn't seem to be room for advancement, such as when working in a small hospital pharmacy?
Sure. Yeah. Can you have them report to my mom that I was too quiet?
It was actually Roxanne had it too far away, but it's fine.
Okay. So just kind of thinking of the questions before we came up here, I came up with just some small things on how to advance in a practice. And a lot of speakers have kind of touched on it, to go ahead and be proactive. Go ahead and be the person who goes and asks for what you're looking for. If they don't have what you want, then look at ways to create it. Like I said in the beginning, I kind of just started as a tech, and that's all they saw me as, was I'm the person up there filling the pills, asking, why did you put that in? I noticed that we had all these buses in our pharmacy, but not a single one had a pharmacy technician on it. So I liked pediatrics. So I just happened to go to the pediatrics lead and said, I want to join your bus. And they went, well, that's great. Come on in. So I've made places, as you just kind of look around, what do you like? What are you interested in? Not everything is going to give you maybe the monetary advancement that you might be looking for, but it really does give you the satisfaction one. I just became more involved. Some other things is just make yourself valuable, same kind of idea. I find, kind of like Judy did with her 422, which I think I'm going to start making that list instead, set a goal for yourself. Right now, like I said, I'm currently the purchasing agent, but I'm working on trying to make that into a coordinator position. So I oversee 5 pharmacy technicians, as in, well, Marcy knows what she's doing, so I get the phone calls. But I want the title that goes with it. So I'm working with my manager. I went to him as a mentor because I have a guy right now that loves numbers. We're on the same page. And now we're working to make that into a coordinator position. That's going to be an FTE he has to ask for. I need to give him a reason to ask for that, to show I'm valuable. This is what I can do. Look what I've saved you. Make me the coordinator. It's been 3 years. I found somebody. Got to find a guy who likes numbers. So just little things, just look around and see where you fit, where you're valuable, and then jump into it. And eventually, if you satisfaction, advancement, love my job, not going anywhere, don't tell Cone Health. But, it just all helps with your own advancement. Not everything is money-based, but it does get there.
Yeah, I think both of those examples are excellent. And I think the reality of it is, and this is like being just completely transparent, is be honest with yourself. Like, if your employer doesn't appreciate what they've mentioned, then another one will. And that's just the reality. Like, somebody's going to appreciate it, and might not be the person who is paying you right now. But, it is daunting to go looking for another job, but we all know that pharmacy technician shortage is real. So, if your current employer doesn't appreciate you, another one might. And I'm not saying like, go leave your job or anything like that, but like, that is one of the realities of that, like just asking for what you want, and asking for what you want might be asking somebody else.
Did you address that already, Roxanne? Okay.
Basically, if you've got the confidence in yourself, thank you. If you have confidence in yourself, you can go anywhere. You can stand in front of somebody and you can say, I am who you want for this new job. Marcy says, be proactive. Look for what you want. Take what Zach says about it may not necessarily be where you're at now, but take the confidence with you to go, get out there and say, I'm it, go for it.
Okay. Do you have other thoughts, Marcy?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back up one, and it's on this same thread. So are you able to, my panel people, to kind of give methods for pharmacy technicians to get their employer buy-in and support when the technician does take a course or does take on extra credentialing? What are those kind of one-on-one things that the technician can do to get recognition for that?
So I know one of the things that we have done is you really have to go ask for it. If you don't ask, they are not going to do anything extra. We have, for instance, with our conventions, we had a very strong support in the beginning. Then Cone Health said, well, make budget cuts. And guess who starts to get cut? The little things that they're like, well, that's not as important. Well, we kind of got tired of that answer. And now we know that our budget set at the hospital starts in October. And if we can get on that line item beforehand, then we have opportunities later on. So we kind of learn, what is your budget rotation? When do they have to put in their information? Because if you ask after the fact, you're going to get, well, maybe we can do that next year. And that worked really well with my kids in the grocery store, but that's not what I want to hear when I'm coming to you when I'm coming to my boss saying, but this is great. This is such an opportunity. I went last year. I learned all this stuff. Look what I'm bringing back to you. And I will tell you that my boss this year, the same guy I'm working with for the coordinator spot, he goes, hey, when you come back, will you give a presentation? So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be sharing with all the other techs. I want to get them all fired up. So next year, we have 25 people who go to Cone Health and say, I want to attend the convention. What can we do?
I thought that was a lot. Caught me off guard with a count of technicians who want to come. This is where I was going to go with this. Almost everywhere has like a tuition reimbursement kind of policy built into HR. And you never know, like that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go take college courses, right? Like it could be used for enrolling in additional learning to grow your role. So you might not be thinking of it as tuition reimbursement, like as community college tuition reimbursement or an advanced degree, but ask your employer, can I use these funds? I'm not using them and they're there for me. Can I use them to take these advanced credentials? But also, by the way, look what I'm doing to help our workforce, like our workplace, by earning these additional credentials and the education. So yes, like that, to Roxanne's point, that they do cost money. Maybe your employer has resources for you available that aren't necessarily you're not that immediately aware of them.
Yeah, and if I can just step in too, with AAPT, it's called a scholarship. And that is where all you have to do is apply, and I'll tell you what, you'll probably get it. And you apply, and that will help you pay for either a portion of your credentialing or all of your credentialing. It just depends on what we have in the funding. It'll help you pay for conventions like this, for CE. So all you have to do you have to be a member of AAPT, but look on the website. It's under, I suppose awards. It's called scholarship. And we have the money that we will award you to help you get that extra credentialing.
Okay, I have a little different take on. I have paid every course I've ever taken. I have had to pay the full amount for it. My employer's position is that, yeah, it may help, but you're not a pharmacist. Okay? They pay for pharmacists to go to conventions. They pay for pharmacists to get additional certifications. They do not pay for technicians to do so, because technicians just fill things. Okay? So that's the other half. And prior to working in the hospital I do now, I worked for Walgreens and I worked for CVS. Anybody who's worked for Walgreens and CVS know what their attitude is, as far as you're just filling, okay? So I've always paid for mine. But I've taken what I've learned and I've said, well, you're not paying for my learning, you're going to pay for the knowledge. So when they weren't willing to pay for my learning last year, I told them, you're going to make me a role. And then they made me the only lead technician at the hospital. So I was pretty firm. You had until December 31st to do something. or January 2nd, I literally showed them the list of places that I was planning on applying. And on December 31st, they said, here you go. There's your new role.
So these are some tips, and maybe won't work for everyone, so disclosure.
I mean, it was 6 years.
And I also just want to put out there too that we respect and appreciate all pharmacy entities, CVS, Walgreens, all chains. One person's personal opinion, like that doesn't reflect us in as a general association.
I
So
loved working for all of my companies. I really did. And I was sorry to leave all of the companies that I worked for. I met some amazing people at all of the companies. I'm just saying that sometimes their attitudes about your salary is a little different than what you'd like it to be.
So we would like to take questions from you folks now and have the panel field them. So
So be nice.
the forum is open. Any type and all types of questions, what we've been talking about so far, or it can be something that hasn't been brought up yet. Tawny?
In your opinions, how do you get other technicians from your company, from your same field, to come to these?
Honestly, I am so fired up after I get back. If you can't tell, I'll talk their ear off. I tell them about all the great people I've met, what I've learned. I'll share some of the CEs we've went over. I'll tell them about the great speakers that we have. I'll tell them about everyone that I have met from many different places. I've informed my husband that if we move in any of the 50 states, that I can probably find a job because I've met someone from all of them. And just be really upbeat about it. I mean, if it's infectious, If they don't want to hear, I have a really large department, so someone's going to listen to me. But I don't know how you don't go back and be excited about what you learned. And it just kind of shows for me.
So as part of my job at PTCB, I exhibit at conferences of all sizes, state conferences, national conferences, whatever. And of course, in the PTCB booth, we give away swag, which I think you all have some, right?
They all do.
Yeah, so I hand that stuff out, typically at an exhibit booth, and every single pharmacist that comes by, no, I shouldn't say every single, but almost every single pharmacist that comes by says, I'm going to take some back to my techs. And I'm like, that's great. Next year, bring your technician. And I will tell you that one of the largest conferences that we go to is ASHP, American Society of Health System Pharmacists, mid-year clinical meeting in December. That's where I started getting bold and saying that because I felt a little comfortable around fellow hospital pharmacists and pharmacy technicians. And now I only see technicians from those organizations. And the pharmacist, they come in because they're looking for their next resident or whatever, and then they leave the meeting. But the pharmacy buyer is now the one walking the exhibit hall. And I'm like, see, it works. I just had to speak up and say something. So I'll do that too. I'm going to continue doing that.
I do kind of the same thing Zach does, because I do take a lot of courses. So I get done with a course and I get back to work and I'm like, I learned how to do this and I learned how to do this, and oh look, here's the form. You could sign up for this tomorrow and you could learn this too. Sometimes the enthusiasm you bring when you learn something new just kind of drags everybody else in your pharmacy along with you, especially if you're in a community pharmacy base. When you've got only 5 employees and you're all working right on top of each other, sometimes just the fact that you brought that little tiny hack that you learned back with you convinces somebody, I would like to do that. This is amazing. And, I've signed up more people just because I've been so enthusiastic. So, you're here today. You were here yesterday. Take this opportunity to go back and say, oh God, it was the best. Next year they're in Denver. Can you believe it? We have to go. And you'll get people.
Thank you. Another question?
Zach, specifically, how did you transition from pharmacy going into PTCB? Because we all know PTCB, well, most of us, because we had to take the tests and do all the stuff, but how did you transition into that role from either filling prescriptions or how did you get into that?
So I was actually working as a pharmacy technician while I was going to school. Like I said, I thought I wanted to go to pharmacy school.
Same.
Yeah, so I realized very quickly after working in a hospital that I did not want to be a pharmacist. And I thought that it was either be a technician or be a pharmacist. And so I went to school for public policy. I was like, maybe I can work for some kind of state organization or the board of pharmacy or something like that. or a think tank, whatever, doing public policy stuff. But I applied to 65 jobs while I was getting ready to graduate, and I didn't even get turned down. It was just silence. Like, there was nothing. So I was training an intern in the IV room overnight on a shift that I just randomly picked up. And she was like, "You're certified by PTCB. Are they hiring?" And that was my 66th job, and I am still here. It's crazy. Like, I had the pharmacy experience. It wasn't anything that I had ever done before, and PTCB really doesn't do policy work, but I'm very familiar with policy, and people look to PTCB for those things, and PTCB works with those types of organizations that do implement policy and white papers and things like that. So I brought something pretty valuable to PTCB. And honestly, I was really trying to escape the pharmacy world because I thought that it was either be a technician or be a pharmacist. I didn't think that there was anything, And now, like, that was 10 years ago, but now I don't know that I would have been looking for a different job outside of, because now the hospital that I worked at has created an insane career ladder. And, like, there are career technicians there now, and I'm like, this is amazing. I don't know that I would have left.
Wow, that's a neat story, Zach. Good question, too. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This will be for all of you. What has been the number one piece of advice a mentor or someone in your life has given you and has stuck with you that motivates you to keep going?
Can I give one? I got one while you guys think. So the gentleman who actually, he came to my home to offer me this job, and so he was really a mentor. And he said to me, every day should be like you're on vacation. And I really do believe that. It's our life, and just do what you can to, every day it's like I'm on vacation because I'm doing what I want to do.
I was going to say, as you can tell, I've been a very negative person. I've always just, as my husband likes to tell me, that I've always been the nicest person he's known, and that's saying something. It's been 28 years and he still likes me. But when I walked into our pharmacy, I was coming through our IV doors, and there was a pharmacist that led that department, and above her door she had "Choose Your Attitude." And it had the happy theater face, and it had the sad theater face. And I thought, how perfect is that? Every day you get to wake up and you get to choose your attitude. Why would you want to be grumpy? So I've always approached every day like, it's going to be a great day. I am doing wonderful. I made the mistake one day at work, and someone said, "Hey, how you doing today?" I'm like, "I'm good." And they went, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" Because I'm never good. I'm great. It's wonderful. We're getting through this. It's going to be fine. But I've always lived with that choose your attitude, and I just choose to be happy, because why do you want to be grumpy?
That is true. That is true. All right, the best advice I ever got was I had a pharmacist who, she was the very first pharmacist that I ever had. And she was a very tough pharmacist, but my initial career started out at Walgreens. And back then they had drays, which is when you made an error, you got a dray. And she would gleefully say, "Oh, I have a bunch of drays for you guys to fix," because you would have to fix your own drays. The best advice she ever gave me was, always look at the entire prescription and don't just assume the doctor knows what they're talking about. And it'll save you an extra hour every day on those drays. Best advice I ever got. 17 years later, I use it, and I actually think about it every single day. When I walk in the door, I say, watch every prescription that goes through. And it saves my pharmacist. When she's got something that's complicated or important, she's always giving it to me, because I care about what it actually says every day. And it makes my life so much happier and so much easier, because my pharmacist likes me, and when your pharmacist likes you, everybody makes your day better.
I know I always tell my technicians, kind of similar with you choose your drays, which, my goodness, that seems mean. But I tell my technicians all the time, you learn more from your error than you ever do from what you do right. Yep. Because you'll remember your first error, and you won't make that error again if someone that allows you to know that was a mistake.
Yep.
So,
And when they do it gleefully.
yes, in my negative personality.
I want to repeat the question, our Zoom people who didn't hear questions, so I need to be better at that. So the question we're looking at right now is, what is your best piece of advice you've received from a mentor?
So my career as a pharmacy technician actually began in a mail order facility. And I don't know if anybody's worked in a mail order facility, but I'm not good at that. My attention span is not long enough for that. And I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I didn't think it was going to be, I was getting a paycheck. It wasn't a career, I was like just there working. And the pharmacy manager, a pharmacist, knew that I had this attitude, and we had a very open conversation one day. And she was like, I see myself in you. I was like this at some point in my pharmacy career. And my advice is, no matter what, the world is small, and the pharmacy world is even smaller. And she was like, I had to have the same conversation with one of my supervisors and it was like getting down to the point where she was almost let go. And she pointed at her pharmacy license on the back, and that man was appointed to the Board of Pharmacy and was the president of the Board of Pharmacy at some point by the time she was done with pharmacy school, and he had signed her pharmacy license. So she was like, don't burn any bridges, and the world is small. And honestly, like, I think about that so often. Yeah, and that person now, she's kind of a mentor, but from a very distant, way of being a mentor, I guess. But I do let her know every time I see her or think of her that pops into my mind, for sure.
Thank you, Zach. So I would like to take one or two more questions for the panel. So do I have another? Yes, ma'am.
So with this, the profession has grown so greatly from just being a job to a profession. Can you give us some tips and pointers how we continue to cultivate mindsets to support where we're going?
So the question is, there's been a lot of growth for pharmacy technicians, and the individuals asking the panel if they can give some tips. Say the rest.
On how to cultivate mindsets.
On-
We're here, we know we're growing, but pharmacists do not.
okay.
Communities do not. What tool tips or traits or things that you can give us to help cultivate those mindsets to support the avenues.
Thank you. So some tips to cultivate mindsets of those who are not in the pharmacy technician community so that they know how pharmacy technicians are advancing. So some tips to cultivate mindsets.
That's part of where advocacy comes in, is you are going to encounter pharmacists in your life that want your role to stay just your role. You're the one that's learning and growing, and they need to learn and grow with you, and sometimes that's a little more difficult. It's not that they're bad people, it's not that they're being mean, it's that pharmacists have a special set of laws that they have to adhere to. So in order for them to adhere to those laws, they need to keep you sometimes in your lane, shall we say. Counseling is a big part of that lane. You change that through advocacy. So as you're growing, also get used to advocating for yourself and your profession, because your profession will grow as the Board of Pharmacies in your states recognize your skills. Because in some instances, they have to change their regulations to allow pharmacists to allow you to grow.
Yeah. So as soon as you said that, Lakeisha, I thought of how many of us answer, well, what do you do? I'm just the technician. We really need to get rid of the word just and say, I am the technician. And then be able to explain what you do in that, because if you ask anyone older than me, and I'll say there's only a couple of you out there, they think of technicians as we're still the people that just pour. I mean, when I tell people that I manage a $2.2 million budget, they go, you do what? And I tell them, oh, I have 4,000 drugs in my pharmacy I'm responsible for. As a technician? Yeah, that's my spot. I'm the technician. I'm not, oh, I'm just a technician, I'm not meek about it. I'm very proud of the fact I am a pharmacy technician. I've been doing this for over 22 years. I'm not giving you the full number. But you have to say it that way. You're not just a technician. And that helps the public. That helps your parents. That helps the pharmacist, anyone around you. Don't be afraid to go up and walk up to the boss. Hey, I'm the buyer. I'm the technician. I am your support today. I'm the coordinator. And get rid of the word just.
That's a dirty word.
I'll use that as my 4-letter word because I don't have many of them.
So I guess this is a little bit higher level and maybe more out of the box, but I think the profession could be diversified a little bit better. And I think by awareness that pharmacy is a profession is the first step of that, and attracting the right talent and diverse talent to the pharmacy profession. And notice I'm not saying pharmacy technician profession or pharmacist profession. It is one profession. And if we attract the right talent, a diverse talent, then great things come from diverse mindset and a greater population, so that we're starting to see, I'm trying to be careful around my words, but I'm not going to do that. But the pharmacists who are I want to keep my job, a technician's going to take my job. I don't see a future where that pharmacist exists in this profession. That's just being blunt. So I think the more we attract people who are outside of the box thinkers and attracted to healthcare and patient safety and all of that stuff, and treat this as one profession, will allow for us to grow entirely.
Thank you, Zach. So I will take one more question. It's from Miss Asia, who has been so patient back there. Go ahead, Asia.
So I think that, let me stand. My question kind of touches on what Lakeisha said, but I'm just going to flip it and just say, how do you convince pharmacy technicians that this profession is worth, going into? Because I've seen YouTube videos where people have said it's not worth it, I've wasted my money. I used to work at CVS where I've seen technicians just come in as far as training and never show up again. So to touch on what Roxanne said earlier about, some people just don't have the passion for it. But now my thinking is maybe they don't have the passion because maybe they feel like no one's encouraging them, or you have pharmacists, doctors, PAs, NPs that make you feel like you're less than or you're not as valuable. So how do you convince technicians, especially new technicians, that it's worth it if you enjoy the medicine, the medical field?
So let me paraphrase the question for the Zoomers, and then I have one comment. So Asia said, how do you convince pharmacy technicians to stick with the profession, and maybe individuals considering the profession to enter it? And what I want to recognize is that we have over 5,000 pharmacy technicians just in Nebraska. And there were less than 80 of you, but 80 of you who decided to attend this weekend. So kudos to you guys. Out of the 5,000 who could have been here, 80 came. So kudos to you guys.
That's a good one, Asia. I think a lot of it falls into some of the things we've already been talking about. But I think when you do that new technician that's coming in, you need to have a welcoming committee. You need to have someone who says, hey, I see you're new, and say, hey, introduce yourself. I can guarantee everybody who walks through our door knows who Lakeisha is. Because if I forget to introduce her as I'm walking the person around, shadowing and showing, she'll come up and say, hey, Marcy, who do you have with you? And she'll introduce herself and make that person feel welcomed. And then it's all about training and mentoring and making them feel involved. It's kind of how I feel with our new people who come in. They need to know who you are. They need to know that they're wanted. If you have someone that's just like, here, you stay over here and you do your thing, and no one else in your department kind of really brings them in. It just takes a couple to make you feel like, oh, this organization wants me. I'm interested here. I'm important here. They want to better me. They want me to improve. They want me to be with them. And I mean, I just feel you got to be welcomed. Hopefully.
That is an excellent point. She has an excellent point. You have to welcome the new technicians. You can't just teach them. You have to help them to understand that they are wanted. Because if you're not wanted somewhere, or if you feel like it's just a job, it's going to be just a job. I'm fortunate because with me working in a med-to-bed situation where I'm going up on the floors, whenever we get new technicians, you do the normal introductions. We are a very small department. We have, 4 full-time technicians and 1 PRN technician and 2 pharmacists that are our normal pharmacists. But the med-to-bed is 500 rooms, plus the auxiliaries. So, the very first opportunity, the first couple of days that they are new, they go with me everywhere. I mean, I go to lunch, they're going to lunch. I go to the floor, they go to the floor. I tell people the rule for us is that while you're walking through the halls to go to the rooms, you're not allowed to have your phone in your hand. You are to look forward, you are to say hello to everybody, because we service our employees, okay? Employees to us are supposed to be our family, okay? Your family, you greet. So I will be honest with you, I remember nobody's names half the time. If you've got 4 feet and a fur body, I know everything about you. But when it comes to your names, names just escape me, okay? But everybody on the nurses' floors, everybody in the hallways, they're all treated like, hi, how are you? How are things going? It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to your day, and it makes a big difference to their day. And anybody who's new that comes in, I can't tell you how many technicians have started out that have actually gone on to be pharmacists and had no intention of being a pharmacist. I'm kind of, proud of them that they did it. But they started out simply because we fostered everybody's family, and you have to make sure that you're smiling when you walk down a hall. You never know who that next doctor is going to save your life is going to be.
Let's see.
So you want me to repeat the question? Okay. So the question is how to, entice pharmacy technicians to stay in the profession, how to entice those who are considering it to come into the profession.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think about this also a little bit, maybe out of left field, but I think that it's worth having a conversation with somebody when they first, start. Like the welcoming committee, I think is an excellent idea. And a maybe controversial opinion is have a pharmacist be part of that welcoming committee who supports and champions technicians. And then also it's worth having that honest conversation with them, like, maybe this isn't for you. Like I think it's not just a job. Like this is a career, this is a health profession, like we're respected in the community. And yeah, I think that people will have to face that at some point. And it would be easier to just have that direct conversation with them up front if they might like it, but what if they don't feel supported, or maybe they really don't like it at all, they should address that up front, probably.
Just think about the fact that you get yelled at all the time, okay? Don't ever take it personally, okay? They're upset. They're taking it out on you because there's nobody else to take it out on. That's where the veterinary training came in, because I always looked at it as, you're yelling at me, but you're not going to physically bite me. You may want to, okay? But you're not gonna. So I'll forgive you for anything after that. So 20 minutes later, the next day, whatever, when they show back up again, whether they apologize or not, it's like nothing happened as far as I'm concerned. You didn't bite me, you just yelled at me. I went home and, if you drink alcohol, you go home and you have a Chardonnay, and if you don't drink alcohol, you go home and eat ice cream. And you take it as that. If you're gonna have a thin skin, sometimes, as Zach says, it may not be the best profession for you.
Can I add just a tidbit? I feel like it's important. I think what you guys were saying, but I don't think technicians know everything they're capable of doing. Like,
Yes.
so introducing yourself and saying, these are all your options, maybe inpatient and not having to deal with deal with patients, or maybe outpatient, but knowing that up front, you can gather if this is where you should be, like you said.
And share this stuff, like share that
Yes.
you come to AAPT, like there is a conference, and like you might not connect with somebody at your workplace, but there are people from many states here, and you might find a peer-to-peer relationship that inspires you in a way that you couldn't find with your coworker.
Please join me in thanking you.